It's been about a year and I've been working like crazy on Banflow, my project management application. Look at the difference between what it was like a year ago and now. Okay, I'll be honest. I haven't been working on it like crazy. It looks like I haven't even touched it at all, to be honest. But that's also not true. The truth is, I haven't worked on it nearly as much as I should have, but I did do a significant amount of refactoring and planning for what I want this project to become. In this video, I'm going to break down the architectural changes I've made so far and the ones I'll need to make in order to get back to adding features to Banflow. Talk about moving the entire project from one boilerplate to another, creating an API, and the plan for Banflow moving forward. When creating software, there's a difference between making it work and making it right. When you make it work, you pretty much just get something working as fast as possible. With making it right, you want to make sure your project is easy to add to in the future. Prototyping is pretty easy, but making sure something is architected well is pretty hard. I'm not a software architect, but since I started Banflow way back in 2020 versus now, I know much more about JavaScript and React, APIs, and how the architecture of a large application looks. I think my actual industry experience for this. That being said, I believe the knowledge I have now will be of better service to me when working on this app. The first step of improving Banflow was starting from a different, better maintained boilerplate. I still don't quite understand Webpack, but back when I was getting started, I scoured GitHub for a boilerplate that had all the dependencies I needed. This included Electron, React, and a component library called Ant Design. The biggest issue I had was that if I tried to upgrade React or Ant, the entire project would break, so I was left with very outdated versions. I also couldn't actually debug the project with DevTools. If I put it in a breakpoint, it would always just show the wrong code that had to do nothing where I actually put it. So for the longest time, I only used console logs. So I finally ended up moving to another boilerplate. I took my entire code base and copied it over to React Electron boilerplate. This took some time for me to do as I was met with a lot of errors at first. Eventually I got it working and I could debug. This has saved me and will continue to save me a ton of time in the future. I can't believe I worked on this project for months with no debugging. I was able to upgrade Ant Design from version 3 and also able to upgrade React from version 14. This will allow me to use features that will hopefully speed up my app in the future. Next, let's talk about creating an API for Banflow. This was a lot of work to get going and I still have a bit more to do for it. Previously, most of my code was handled in this project page file, which at one point was almost 800 lines by itself. It was handling basically all the calls to our service for Loki.js. Loki is a local database package that I use to write out data to JSON files. Scattered throughout the app, we would directly be calling the service to CRUD for data. This was very unorganized and the Loki service file was destined to become a behemoth with no differentiating between any of the models in my app. Also, our timer page was using Electron remote calls to fetch and pass data back to the main page. So the solution I came up with was using some controllers and services divided into what domain they are in the app. We have a project service, tag service, node service, and a parent service, and other ones. I am somewhat trying to replicate a mono-view controller architecture without the hard models as I'm using JavaScript. I think I'll switch to TypeScript in order to add type checking and to make things easier to develop in the future, but that can be its own separate overhaul video. Throughout the app, I have broken things into smaller components, cleaned up logic, and used our controllers to CRUD data instead of doing this directly through Loki. This will make it easier in the future to diagnose issues as I plan on adding logging at some point in all the services. The way CRUD works is we create a new object in the controller asks the service to create it, then the service talks to Loki, creates it, and then returns a newly created object. When we load pages or select something, we ask the controller for it by ID or file name if it's a project, and then the service asks Loki for that information, and then it gets returned and put into state. Whenever changes are made, we update the state. We use the same process as creating, except we are changing something that already exists. We just request a deletion and Loki does it, and we update the state to reflect. This makes things much easier because we need to implement these basic functions for all types of data in Banflow. Adding new services in the future will be as simple as copying the current files and changing it to fit the needs of the new model. So finally, let's talk about the plan for Banflow moving forward. Although a lot of progress has been made behind the scenes, there's still a ton of stuff to be refactored and fixed. So my immediate plan is to continue API work and fix bugs. Once that is done, I actually want to refactor the way we are currently doing metadata for a card. The way I was doing it before was guessing what kind of metadata people want, creating all of that. But instead, I plan on removing most of it and allowing people to add custom tabs to their cards with custom metadata. They will be able to choose a category and the name of the metadata. This should be stored in a project-wide database so that the user can add the same custom metadata type to another card from a menu or something. Once this is done, then I believe I'll start working on adding content to the app again. I believe this is a necessary evil that will make it so much easier to work on Banflow. It sucks to work through it, but I know in the long run I'd regret it if I just tried to pile features on the mess that it is right now. The next time you see a devlog on this, I believe it will be more content focused. Also, it should be closer than the time between this devlog and the last. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Bye.